Hello everyone, if you are a homeowner or tile contractor and you want to learn how to install Tumbled Travertine, acid wash Tumbled Travertine, this is going to be a great video. I am going to highlight some of the key things that you can do to make it look just absolutely stunning. This Tuscan or Mediterranean style backsplash that you see right here, here's a quick little preview, is very unique and it's definitely tricky to install. Alright, let's get started. For this backsplash, instead of using mastic, I highly recommend using thin set. The reason being that you can custom make the consistency of the thin set almost watery. You don't want it to be runny, but you want it to be very close to that, and that will increase the open working time. You can see here that I have a piece of blocking at the bottom there. Another key difference between porcelain and ceramic versus these stone travertines is that they are fairly heavy, at least in comparison to what you're used to with these smaller tiles. So if you want them to stay in place, using things like LFT thin set, having supporting blocking to keep them in line, all these things are going to be important. Obviously the rest of the installation has a countertop, so we don't have to worry about that, but if this was a porcelain or ceramic, I would just float it. A lot of times, or just put something flimsy there to hold it, but you do want something more robust. Cutting these little wedges that go in these corner pieces are probably a little bit trickier. You can't really use a glass cutter, you do have to use a wet saw. Now, this is the second key point. The corners, you don't want to use some kind of a trim. Instead, you can see here that these two have sort of a polished textured edge. This is how I do that. First step, cut it with the wet saw right in the middle, and then I go ahead and sort of polish the corners with the saw, not making a perfect polish like you would for some kind of miter or anything like that. Instead, you deliberately jagged the edges and make it sort of inconsistent so that it matches the remainder of the acid wash. This is a factory, and that's the one that I just made. But we're not done just yet. You also want to go ahead and polish that so that it has sort of a matte finish as opposed to just the jagged finish that the machine gives you. And that's it. That's how you make these half pieces. And why you want these half pieces is so that you can finish the corner, just like this. This is one way that you can do it. You could also run a long piece vertical, but if you don't want a kind of an edged look on the outside edges, you can do this and it would continue the subway pattern. If you have any kind of small piece, you are going to need a wet saw. If you are a homeowner that's hoping to install something like this yourself, you can rent wet saws, a variety of different building material stores, but you are going to need a wet saw. If you have the right saw, the right blade, and the right skills, you can do crazy stuff like this. Not much to say here, this is just a nice little detail. They had a pillar at the edge of this kitchen area, and we did decide to tile that because it helps with the cohesion of the sort of outside living room space versus the kitchen space. And that completes the whole tile installation phase. This whole process took about 6 hours or so. On the next day, first things first, you gotta make sure to clear out all of the thin set that might be left in places and clean up all the surface to make sure that you don't stain the grout. Then of course you have to mix your grout. I'm just using standard high performance prism grout, and we're gonna pick white, which is going to be tricky because white is a fairly contrasting color. In this case it'll be much easier because I do not have to seal it beforehand. The customer specifically wanted a kind of whitewashed finish that you would get, like for example, a lot of people see this kind of finish on brick and things like that, where they deliberately want the white stain to go on the surface of the tile, which is going to just look phenomenal with this tumbled tile. If you want to avoid that, you can use a similar matching color, or make sure to seal the tile before you grout it. So then this becomes, instead of 2 days, you end up taking about 4 or 5 just of lead time. So if you're a contractor, make sure you take that into account. You need 3 days for the sealer to completely cure before you can grout it. So for most people that's a long time, so you do have to take that into account. I still set timers to make sure that I clean the tile at the various appropriate stages of the cleaning process. That's really the only tricky part about grouting, is you have to make sure to clean things when you're supposed to. If you follow that, you should be fine. And there you have it. You have this beautiful Mediterranean villa-style backsplash. The tile is a Tumbled Travertine 6x3 acid wash finish. And the grout is bright white by Prism. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to follow and subscribe. If you live in the Sacramento area, my information is below. Call for a free tile work evaluation. Thank you for watching.